there is a world in the space. In this space, there are many outer gods. One of them, called the Greater Will, is given the task of influencing this planet in the purest Cretaceous style, specifically in the lands between.
Target acquired.
But unlike these, the meteor didn't bring death, but rather a new life. The Elden Beast, which obeys its daddy or mommy or whatever the Greater Will is, bringing the Golden Order and its laws to these lands. The creature lodges and parasitizes a massive tree, which from then on would be called the Erdtree. Inside there, this beast transforms into the Elden Ring, which is the sum of a set of very powerful runes, the most important being the Death Rune. But a huge tree and a beast transformed into runes are not enough to control these lands, so the Greater Will designates an outsider woman from the intermediate lands as an Empyrean, that is fit to reign, who is known as
Marika! Marika!
This Greater Will also assigns Malekith as her bodyguard, her shadow. The shadows of the Empyreans are basically creatures with big dog faces and unwavering loyalty to their Empyrean, hence the canine appearance, I suppose. Here begins the construction of the new capital around the Golden Tree to consolidate its power. But at first, Márika, as the new self-proclaimed invading power queen of all the intermediate lands, well, she's not received very in a welcoming way. And absolutely everyone is against her. In fact, another Empyrean, the Lady of the Veiled Eye, and her Godskin apostles constantly try to kill her. But Marika, in her infinite wisdom as the new ultimate supreme hegemonic ruler in the intermediate lands and possessor of the Elden Ring, has an absolutely brilliant idea. To forbid death! Yes, like nothing can die unless Marika decides it. And for this, she goes all out and removes the Death Rune from the Elden Ring to pass it to Malekith and have him seal it. So from then on, he will be the only one able to kill, turning all beings of the intermediate lands into immortals. So many advances in science, biomedicine, and genetic engineering when it was as easy as forbidding death and done. World Health Organization. Learn something. Now, every time something dies, it doesn't really die, but its soul goes to the Golden Tree and joins all the others, and they live happily ever after, frolicking with other souls in a meadow of souls from a soul farm. All very soulsy. With death playing in her favor, Malekith the Dogface takes out these Godskin's apostles, and the other Empyrean, the one with the veiled eye, has to bail out. But the saga doesn't end here, since Marika now has to deal with all the threats against her reign. But instead of getting her hands dirty and going to kick ass herself, she marries a warlord, Lux, who in exchange for obedience to Marika and containing his wild battle instincts to behave like a lord, becomes her consort and trademark demigod, becoming known as Godfrey, the first lord of Elden, with the Crucible warriors at his service. Is everything ready? Well, let's go to war. War in the castle of the Stormvale against the Lord of Storms, who is a nuisance. War in Morn Castle against the Lord of Morn, who is a pain. War against the giants, who have a flame capable of burning the massive tree and for that are a threat. War against the ancient dragon. No, these ancient dragons, who have temporal stones with which to time travel and thus evade the prohibition of death. These creatures were quite tough. They managed to knock down the walls of the capital where the Golden Tree is, although this is the most they got because it was here where they killed Grandsax, the baddest ass they had. And war against the inhabitants of Liurnia, who refused to accept the Golden Order and have their own laws. Although this time Godfrey would be busy or something because it's Radagon, a new lieutenant of Marika, who takes care of it, appearing out of nowhere just for this war. But, well, the thing is that Godfrey knows how to war and fucks them all up, including Marika because he has 3 children with her. 2 ugly twins, Morgoth and Mogh, who are born as omens, that is, with this face, and are locked in the catacombs, further down the sewers of the capital for being cursed and ugly along with others of their kind. And Godwyn the Golden, who comes out beautiful, cute, blonde, and precious, and follows in his father's footsteps as a badass warrior. These 3 will be known as the Golden Lineage. They already had everything conquerable conquered until in Liurnia, the nobles and the mages under the command of Rennala join forces and stand up to the Golden Order in the Second Liurnia War. Apparently, despite being much fewer in number, they fought at an S+ level, commanded by Rennala and her lunar magics. There was no way to beat these tremendous gigachads, but where the sword doesn't reach, it does the... And it turns out that Radagon, the guy who previously conquered this region, returns to reconquer it. In the middle of a battle, he meets Rennala and they both fight with all their might. After this intense confrontation, Radagon falls in love with Rennala. Apparently, the infatuation is mutual. They forget about the war, get married, and unite their peoples. So the golden laws based on faith and the magical stuff based on knowledge come together and coexist. These lovebirds doesn't lose time and have 3 children. First Radan, who becomes a military general like his father. Fun fact is that his best friend is a completely scrawny and tiny horse for his gigantic body. So Radan specializes in gravitational magic to weigh less and be able to ride it. More or less. Second, Rykard, who joins a sect of crypto bros or something similar related to a serpent and isolates himself in a castle surrounded by lava like Bowser. And third, Ranni, who inherits her mother's ability with lunar magic. These 3 will be known as the Lunar Lineage. Everything's great, but now in the palace, once everything conquerable has been won, Godfrey is left without ambition and purpose in life, and the following happens.
Marika, since there's nothing left to kill or conquer, I'm more bored than a mimic waiting. I have no desire to live anymore.
Godfrey, you are no longer the man I married! I want a divorce! And by divorce, I mean banishing you from all the domains you yourself conquered and keeping them all for myself! Go back to your country!
So Márika kicks him out, banishing him and his warriors from the intermediate lands and expelling them from her divine grace. You know, that protection where no one can die and the golden laws are enforced and such. Thus, Godfrey and his friends become the first Tarnished, those without light, the ones about whom so much is spoken, and they stay out there warring in other foreign places in what is known as the
Long March,
where his axe breaks.
I miss the kids.
Until, very importantly, Márika calls them back when she needs them.
Honey, come back!
Talent! That's what Radagon has for seeing opportunities, and it turns out that seeing Márika single and the throne vacant, he goes for the ultimate poaching move and abandons Rennala.
Let me explain. It's not you, it's Márika. She's single and has much more power than you. Take good care of the kids.
But I loved you.
The move works out well, and thus Radagon becomes the queen's second consort and the first son of the great. Radagon is everything Rennala thinks about. I mean, she's in the gutter, and taking advantage of her weakness, a civil war erupts between her noble warriors and the mages. But Radagon couldn't care less because just like Godfrey once did, Radagon ascends to the rank of demigod with this marriage, and his children with Rennala by extension also acquire this divine status. With Ranni the Witch additionally becoming an Empyrean, accredited by the greater will as capable of ascending to the throne, which, apart from the benefit of having a rather stylish shadow, you know, the dog-faced bodyguards of the Empyreans, didn't sit well with her because she just wanted to do her own thing and start a rock band with her buddies. Radagon must be a Latin dad because he quickly forgets about his children and makes new ones with Márika. So the twins Malenia and Michela are born. Yes, Michela is a boy, even though it doesn't seem like it from the name or appearance. It must be that in this universe, being born as a pair brings a curse, because just like what happened with these two, in this case, both, although Empyreans, are cursed. Malenia is rotting big time, and also spreads her scarlet putrefaction contagiously wherever she goes. And Michela has the curse of always being a child like Peter Pan, which, hey, isn't so bad if you ask me. And so, we already have the whole roster of gods and demigods. Michela's life purpose is to try to cure all the diseases in the world, especially her sister Malenia's rotting all day long. He studies magical stuff with his father Radagon through the laws of the Golden Order. But nothing. He doesn't achieve anything. So he gets frustrated with the Golden Order and its limiting laws and does what any rebellious child would do with their parents. Grab a seed from the golden tree, run off to a remote village up north with his sister, and water it with his own blood. Thus, the Haligtree is born. You may have wondered, if they are Empyreans, where are their shadows, you know? The dog-faced ones. Well, some say they had to kill them to be able to escape from their parents. Others, that the greater will itself took them away when they renounced the Golden Order. Others, that their curses are their shadows. And the thing is, it's not known. Ranni, the witch, still enraged because she doesn't feel like being an Empyrean and serving the greater will. So she forms a plot through which she steals a fragment of the death rune, the one that the wolfman, Marika's shadow, had kept. And with that rune, she sends her assassins to kill Godwyn. You know, Godfrey and Marika's blonde handsome son. And boy, do they kill him in the most unimaginably severe way, assassinating his very soul, leaving the body alive in permanent putrefaction. But this is just one part of the plan, since he's not the only one to die, because at the same time his assassins take out Godwyn's soul. Ranni practices unaliving by killing her body in this case. So a body and soul of a demigod die at the same time, and thus Ranni can unalive herself only in body and not in soul, to escape her fate as an Empyrean, and after that she occupies the body of a very flashy blue puppet. This is a scandal of the highest order, since the blonde guy is the first demigod to die after Marika's prohibition of death. And on top of that, they don't think of any other burial place than in the very roots of the golden tree, which is rotting everything and making other soulless bodies resurrect and wander around. A Mesopotamic mess. But the plot gets even more intricate, and this is complicated to understand. Turns out Radagon is
Marika!
That's it. Márika at some point, possibly to conquer Liurnia, divided her body in two, and from there came Radagon. Now, if you go back to the story, you'll find out certain things, and others will have become even more confusing. Do Malenia and Michaela have a mom-daddy? What does Godfrey think about this? Is it considered incest, masturbation, mastercest? Well, the thing is, after Godwyn's death, Márika either goes crazy or is in cahoots with Ranni to harm the greater will. And she wants to destroy the Elden Ring. Radagon is completely against it, and they both fight for control of the same body. Márika wants to completely destroy the Elden Ring, while Radagon fights to repair every damage done by Márika, all at the same time. Quite a spectacle. In the end, in this battle, Márika wins and the power runes of the Elden Ring explode, scattered throughout the intermediate lands in the hands of the multiple demigod heirs. Márika broke what gave her the power to reign and enforce the wishes of the Greater Will. This, of course, makes the Greater Will very angry, and from space crucifies Márika for high treason, imprisoning her in the Golden Tree and leaving the throne empty. And do you remember Mogh, the one buried for being ugly along with his twin? Well, he comes out of his ostracism and proclaims himself regent of the Golden Tree capital and his army until a worthy heir comes along. And what happens when there's a power vacuum and a bunch of heirs to the throne? 3, 2, 1. War! Everyone but Ranni rushes to claim the runes of their relatives and conquer the capital. Godric, a weirdo who grafts arms and legs from other people, believed to be a descendant of the handsome blonde guy killed by Ranni, raises an army to claim the throne he believes is his and initiates the first attack on the capital. He gets a brutal beating and has to retreat to the castle of Stormvale, where Malenia, the rotten girl from the Mastercest affair, beats him up again for insulting her until he surrenders and begs for his life. Rykard, Radagon's and Rennala's son, the snake cult guy. Well, he lets himself be consumed by the serpent in his lava-surrounded castle and transforms into a blasphemous aberration obsessed with devouring all the other gods, so the capital's army starts a war against him, which is completely futile because they can't even get past the first gate. Now Radagon, Radagon's and Rennala's other son, the one with the tiny horse, initiates the second attack on the capital, but nothing. This Morgott guy gives him a tremendous beating, just like the weirdo before. Malenia, who also desires the throne for her brother Miquella, knows that she'll have to get Radan's rune first, which initiates the most brutal war of this era with massive casualties on both sides, until Malenia and Radan end up in a technical stalemate, in which Malenia, desperate, releases all the putrefaction she held inside in an explosion that massacres enemies and allies, leaving Radan completely insane and herself falling into a long slumber. But of course, while Malenia is out there causing massive putrefaction, leaving an entire region completely devastated, Eternal Child Miquella is all alone in his hieratic tree, something that Mogh, the other ugly and cursed twin who was thrown into the sewers, takes advantage of. And it turns out this guy, half-brother of Miquella, since both are children of Marika, if you remember, kidnaps him and takes him to his domains where he plans to establish his own dynasty using Miquella as a vessel. He's your brother and is a child, with the help of another cosmic deity in the style of the Greater Will, whom he calls the Formless Mother. And among all this mess of dozens of gods, demigods, wills, and other stuff, do you remember that? Until, very importantly, Marika calls them back when she needs them. Well, since Marika finds herself crucified and her children are out there killing each other without being able to take the throne, she calls the Tarnished back as a last resort. Which means she is calling you. This is where Elden Ring begins.
Elden Ring. Skrrr.